So Dog Studios put out a Q&A video answering some questions they received from the Foreverwinter Discord server. Let's talk about it. I'm going to try to make this quick. I just wanted to give my thoughts and recap what it is that they talked about. They talked a little bit about how hardcore the game is going to be. Pretty simply put, the game's going to be hardcore. Or at least they want it to be that way. Specifically, they said to don't expect to Rambo around. Expect to die a lot. Don't expect to shoot everybody you see. If you shoot everyone you see, be prepared to deal with the repercussions. There will probably be many. That feeling of being basically hopeless most of the time is going to make when you do survive feel better. That's kind of how these games typically operate as extraction shooters and all that. Honestly, I'm cool with that. That's kind of what drew my eye to this anyway. I know that the whole basic premise is that you aren't the main character in this universe, even though you play the only characters that exist that are playable. I think that that's really neat. Obviously, it's just an extraction shooter. It's a PvE game. You're going to end up losing a lot of stuff, and I think that that's definitely fine. That's how the game is supposed to operate. So it's super cool to hear that that's how it is that they want the game to progress to be. They talked about the water questions that a lot of beta testers had and really kind of provided some insight on what it is that they want and feel like the water system is supposed to mean. So they talked a little bit about how the water is going to be easier to collect and maintain and sustain, and that's going to continue to be monitored, so that's probably fine. That's definitely a good place to be at. One of the things that they're definitely changing is giving the water cap in terms of the amount of days that you can store up. They're going to raise it, so you're going to have more than 30 days worth of water stored up. What that'll end up being, we'll have to wait till the 24th to figure out. Water death, which is what happens when you run out of water after X number of days of storage runs out, will remain. It's a pretty controversial thing. So when water death occurs, they're going to make it easier to come back from that. They're letting you keep more money. I think experience, I'm not 100% on all that. They're going to effectively make it so it's a little easier to come back from that. I never experienced that. In the beta, you had 30 days of access. Basically, a majority of people, from what it is that they said, basically maxed out the 30 days first day of the beta. Yeah, whether or not that'll happen, obviously it'll be based off of how long you play and how long you're not playing, kind of thing. Yeah, they talked about not wanting to remove that specific part of the water system because they wanted there to be legitimate stakes at play. And if I'm being honest, I get where it is that they're coming from, but I don't want this to end up being a Helldiver situation where the developer idea for what it is that they want the game to be ends up forcing or making players do things that aren't fun and effectively making players not play the game. I'm fine with the system that they have in place where you run out of water if you don't play. It's a running timer regardless of if you're playing or not. They made a comment about how old Nintendo DS games like Animal Crossing, if you don't play for a long time and then come back to a save file that you didn't play for a while, basically the entire island's covered with weeds and you have to deal with that. They like that system. They also mentioned that one of the things that they really enjoy about not being like a AAA team in terms of not having a publisher to answer to allows them to try things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do, like this system. I get it. I understand where they're coming from, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. I like the idea of the water system being meaningful in terms of keeping players honest about actually playing the game if they want to keep progression. But water death seems really harsh, and I think that a way to get around that in terms of making it more user-friendly and playable in terms of people that don't have time to play one game all the time or to play for extensive periods of time sometimes is to just get rid of the water death but keep everything else. Like you run out of water, you have to regain all of it. For example, realistically, the water system is supposed to be to maintain and sustain the people in the innards, which is the hub, and with more water, like daily water supply that you can collect, the more benefits and buffs that your character will have. Like I think you get more inventory space. I know that more vendors show up. There's a bunch of different other stuff. I think you might get discounts, but that might have more to do with the items that the vendors have. There's a whole laundry list of things that are beneficial that come with having the most water that you can at any given time. And I think that it's fair to keep a system like that in play, but to just not have a character wipe effectively, where you lose basically every bit of progress that you have on a character, or where you die and then you have to crawl back from the ashes effectively. Like I'm cool with them keeping the daily timer in when you're not playing, and then if you come back and you have no water, you have to gain the water back, especially because it's peer-to-peer. So if you join somebody else's innards, you're in their hub world. You're in their innards, so if they have max water, you still basically have max water, and everything that you collect goes to your innards. So if you play a couple of matches with that person and you collect, say, 10 water in a bunch of different raids, you'll be fine afterwards. Like, it just becomes easier. That kind of bleeds into what it is that they talked about next, which was the compatibility from solo to co-op play. Whoever's the host, that's the innards you're in. For example, if you are level 1 and you join a friend who's been playing for 100 hours, you'll experience the benefits of all of their innards progression from the jump, which is a very good and impactful design decision. It's also super user-friendly in terms of if you die from water death or if you just run out of everything. So with that being said, they confirmed that they aren't going to be gating anything like that either. So you can, as somebody who's never played the game before, a brand new character, brand new save file, join somebody that you know, or just anybody in a public lobby that has hundreds of hours basically in the game, or, you know, more than you basically. They aren't going to gate you from playing with those people. Again, super user-friendly, one of the better design decisions that they could have made. Nobody wants to play a dedicated co-op PvE game and not be able to play with their friends because they just don't have time to play the same amount that their friends do. So yeah, that's good. That's a good design choice. They mentioned that there will be Linux support, but not native out of the box. They're going to be something that they have called protons that you need to use. I'm not a Linux user. I know nothing about that. If those words mean positive things to you, phenomenal. So they patted the beta testers on the back for their feedback. So round of applause for everybody. Some major categories that they pulled from were AI, meta and lore, player navigation, and water, which ties into meta and lore. They're going to be looking at making awareness and state of awareness better in terms of how it is that the enemies spot you and the user feedback that has, I think, is how I gathered from that. Somebody can correct me if they watch the video. They're continuing to work on AI target acquisition improvements. They have a funny example from a user apparently, but they couldn't remember who said it specifically. I obviously don't know who said it specifically. It wasn't me. I won't take credit for it. Regardless, they're working to improve that, which is good. Some of the AI target acquisitions were a little weird. Yeah, they're making loot table improvements. People who played the beta will remember how hard getting drone parts were. Hopefully that's changed. They say that it is already, so that shouldn't be a problem at early access launch, which is good. They talked a little bit about how long early access will last. They also generally went over the update roadmap. Realistically, from what I gathered, there isn't any concrete window. Basically, the game will come out when it's ready. That's fine. Early access games can take as long as they need, as long as they continually improve and the devs don't abandon the project, which I don't think that will happen here. Fundog Studios, as far as I'm aware, is only making the Foreverwinter, and this is their first step into the market. I can't imagine that the studio wants to do a bad job here. The roadmap's kind of up in the air right now. I'm sure it's more to be announced sooner rather than later. They did say that a major point in releasing new content right now is going to be newer maps, which is probably for the best. What it is that we got, we only had access to 2 maps. We'll have access to more on early access release, and the more maps that this game launches with when it fully releases will just be better for, you know, everybody's sake. Plus, it'll be fun to kind of see how the game grows from what it is that they had and see what different environments the studio can create, because so far, from what I've seen, they've done a hell of a job. So a little bit of bad news for cheaters and good news for everybody. There's going to be anti-cheat, and it's not going to be kernel level anti-cheat, which means they won't have access to information from our machine. So here we are, all good things. They went over a little bit about the personality differences between the different characters. The major point of emphasis that I heard was the level of talent that they used for voice actors will make very apparent the personality differences between the characters that are playable at launch. Not a whole lot of information on what it is that they are in terms of which characters do specific things and say specific things and feel a specific way. Listen out for it when you play it. Hopefully you find a character that you enjoy. They also went over some skill tree stuff for the different characters to kind of make them feel more unique. It's very work in progress. They want to make the characters' skill trees and progression paths as unique as possible. It is work in progress, so I'm not sure how differently they'll play other than access to different weapons and different rigs, etc. at early access launch. It sounds like there's going to be pretty limited uniqueness from character to character, at least from what it is that they said and what I gathered from how that information came across to me. I could be wrong, but again, it is early access. They are going to push towards more uniqueness from character to character. They gave an example of how Gunhead is going to be unique pretty early on, so that's good. But again, I'm not sure 100%. I do like making the characters as unique as possible in terms of playstyle, so hopefully that ends up being beneficial. A big question that I've been asked a lot and that they finally answered is whether or not the game is going to have a console release. And discussions are ongoing. They made a joke about releasing it to Game Boy Advanced. I hope that that's true. I doubt it though. Obviously, there's no final decision that's been made. They very clearly want to release on console, and I think that it would behoove them monetarily to release on console if they can do it, you know, without any major slip-ups. The game is releasing in probably a pretty early state to early access this month. However long the game is in early access for, nobody really knows or is certain yet, and there obviously is no roadmap for when early access will end. As long as that process is ongoing, no console release will be announced. I would imagine no console release is expected, simply because no console release has ever been in early access as far as I'm aware. I can't imagine that the Foreverwinter is going to have an early access game on console, and that's kind of just the way of things, unfortunately. A fun little thing, they talked about an art book that they're going to release, but more information on that's going to be announced soon. That's about it. And then they talked about what it is that their favorite snacks were, and I won't spoil that for you. You're going to have to watch the video by yourself. That wrapped up what they talked about. It was super insightful, I think. They're going to come out with more information. I would join the Foreverwinter Discord server if you want to put your questions for them to possibly answer whenever they answer the next round. I know that they're currently accepting questions. I don't know if that thread has ended yet. They're going to be releasing more of these kind of on a regular basis until the game releases. So I'll continue to put more of these videos out as well, just to sort of recap things for you guys. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you want more Foreverwinter and just general gaming stuff. I would genuinely appreciate it. I do plan, obviously, on making more of these videos and eventually streaming and playing and putting more of the clip mixes out for Foreverwinter. As I make other content for other stuff, I kind of just do this as a fun little side project. Comment down below whether you have any other questions that I should ask them specifically, or that I could add to their Q&A questions for you if you don't want to join the Discord for whatever reason. I can see what I can do. I don't want to flood that with just general nonsense or with things that are commonly asked. Regardless, I genuinely appreciate you if you made it this far. I will link the dev Q&A video into the description if you wanted to watch that. With all that said, I genuinely appreciate you if you've made it this far again. Please do me a favor. Don't die. I will see you in the next one.